What's up, everybody? Welcome in. It is the Oddsmakers presented by Superbook Sports. I'm Jonathan Von Tobel, Jay Cornegay alongside, virtually, a 2020-esque type podcast here as we are in spots far away for Thanksgiving week. And John Murray is not here, so we're doing this digitally. What's up, Jay? Happy Thanksgiving week.
Yeah, same to you, JVT. Where in the heck is Murray?
He is, I think, along the East Coast. He is not in a tropical climate like I was the other day in Hawaii, and/or where I am right now, which would be San Juan Capistrano in California for a basketball tournament. So he's missing out. He's missing
Very nice.
out.
Checking out the Rebels, I guess.
Yes, the local UNLV running Rebels who are off to an undefeated start and doing some work on the side. You know, as John says, I'm a worker. And I think that is something that it's the reason why John likes me. So, but we have a lot to get to here in the next 30 minutes or so. So let's start off with how was the weekend from your perspective, NFL, college, anything notable in terms of results?
We had a mixture of results. We had a really good Saturday. A couple of games got us on Friday night. Some house players beat us up and then broke even on Sunday. So probably overall, I'm not going to say disappointing, but below average results for us. But we're all good moving forward.
Okay. As we always say, I think the book will remain open despite a lackluster weekend as it was. So with that, let's jump into it. We got NFL Week 12 upon us here. Of course, it starts on Thanksgiving, and let's go there because the Buffalo Bills for the second consecutive week are going to be playing at Ford Field. The Lions, of course, playing host this time. It's not a neutral site game. Bills 9.5 with a total of 54 over at the Superbook. So what is this line? What has it done here in terms of some movement? And is anything in terms of action come in on Buffalo and or Detroit, who, the Lions, Jay, 2 straight weeks? We're talking about a combined 62 points for the Lions the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, they're able to run the ball, and their offense seems to be clicking pretty good. The Bills have been struggling a little bit. I mean, we did open at 10 here, and it's down to 9.5. So a little bit of, I think the whole market moved there. But, the Bills have a reputation of being some like bullies, JVT. I mean, they really beat up on some of these bad teams. And I'm not sure what the Lions are right now at this time. I mean, they I think they've won 3 straight, doing pretty well. Their offense has been pretty decent. But the Bills usually, take prey on these type of teams. But I'm not sure if I'm going to expect that on Thursday.
How popular will this be from a total handle perspective? Just given that, one, it's a Thanksgiving game, it's the Lions, but it's the Bills. I would assume people want to get in right away, start betting these things, and, of course, have a lot of action. And they're standalone games, right? Thanksgiving, I would assume, is one of the more popular days overall in terms of NFL wagering.
Well, what we see is a huge rush, as all the dads out there, grandpa going saying, we're out of milk, we're out of eggs, we got to go. And they get out there and make their bets. And it's one of the more popular games of the season because it's on Thanksgiving. And we're thankful here because it's not the Bears and the Lions, it's the Bills and the Lions. And the Lions have shown some life here, as we've said. So it's going to be, I think it's a pretty intriguing game. I think it's going to be a heavily bet game. In fact, I'm already looking at the numbers. And, when you look at a Bills game, normally you look at the ticket count and it's about 75%, Bills almost every single week. But this week, and I know it's in the early going, but there's some support there for Detroit. And I would expect that to continue, even though I think majority of the wagers will be on the Bills. I expect the Lions to get some bites as well.
Also on Thanksgiving, because it is a triple header, the Giants will take on the Cowboys. And it's funny, we talked about this last week, right? I brought up, hey, man, that Cowboys line, why aren't the Vikings favored, Jay? And we kind of saw that play out as to why the Vikings were not favored in that game against the Dallas Cowboys. And then you get the Giants, the darling Giants, who took one on the chin, and now are you looking at it, a 9-point underdog to the Dallas Cowboys. And you talked about ratings last week, right, Jay? This is one of those where this is the ratings. This Giants team might be 7-3, but they're barely positive in their point differential, and they're not a highly rated team.
Yeah, they might have shown their true colors. We know that their tires were really overinflated going into, each week, and it just finally showed up. And that was one of the reasons why I know that game kind of stood out for many fans out there, many bettors. When you looked at if you just looked at the records, You looked at the Giants with the gaudy record, only laying 3 against the Lions at home, and just got taken out to the woodshed. I think it's important to note there the Giants really got beat up in that game too. Not only did they lose the game, but they had a lot of injuries, and the Giants right now don't look like they can stop anybody from running the ball, and that's a problem if you're facing the Cowboys. I would expect this thing to probably go to 10. I'm looking at the ticket count right now, and it's probably about 79, 80%. Let's say 80% of the tickets right now are on Dallas, and I would expect that to continue, JVT.
Would you consider Dallas a sharp team? Is that well respected by respected bettors?
I think that in our power rankings, they're right up there, and they're only going to climb in those rankings the next few weeks because they have a very easy schedule. It's a very favorable schedule. Their last 3 games will be tough. They have Washington and the Eagles and somebody else late, but their next 3 games, I think, will be a walkover. So I expect them to be at the end. If you're looking for Cowboy futures, now's the time.
All right, let's move on to that Vikings team that we talked about, who is going to be in action on Thanksgiving as well. They're the night game. They'll play host to the New England Patriots. This is a really interesting game. Patriots and Vikings, 2.5 with a total of 42 we initially saw. And I think this is still sitting at that 2.5 range over at the Superbook. And this gives us an idea, right? We talk about this all the time, Jay, and you can speak to this. The number gives you clues as to where the respected opinion is. If there was a respected opinion that wanted to support Minnesota, it wouldn't be sitting under a field goal, it'd be at a field goal, but that's not the case. Well, what do we make of Minnesota? I think there's like these interesting themes, right, with some of these teams, the Giants, the Vikings. Record standpoint, looks like one of the better teams in the NFL, but from a power rating standpoint, the market doesn't really seem to agree.
Yeah, the power rankings don't really look at the records; they look at statistics, and the Vikings haven't been very impressive. They're probably just a few plays away from being 500, and the Patriots haven't been great, but their defense is. I know, I think they've held their opponents to 3 points. Like 2 out of the last 3 weeks, something like that. And I know that their defense, and those weren't offensive juggernauts. They weren't by any means, but the Patriots do have a solid defense. I'm a little surprised actually to see this thing drop below 3. I thought it was going to be 3, maybe 3.5. I think it will climb back up there because I know the public will have, they'll show support for Minnesota. But I am surprised that this thing has dropped down because I think the Patriots are okay, especially defensive wise. But I got to give the Vikings a little credit. I don't know if it's a gut check time after that beat down by Dallas, but it's I think we're going to find out a lot about this Minnesota team because the Patriots are one of those teams that probably are under the radar a little bit, and the Vikings have been in this limelight for most of the season, and they won 7 straight, but not impressively, as we said, and that's what the power rankings state, that the Vikings are not as good as their record, but I'm still surprised it's under 3.
It's kind of New England, right? Like the Patriots offensively have not been very good. They win on essentially walk-off punt return for a touchdown against the New York Jets. They've been terrible on that end. That's why I'm really interested in this game because the Patriots have been covering numbers, but it's been due to their defense, as you said. Their offense is among the worst in the NFL.
I know. I understand that. And again, they're not impressive. Their defense is okay and way above average. I'm not going to say okay. It's way above average. Their offense struggles, but I'm a little surprised that this game isn't 3. And maybe it's 3 by kickoff, but I really thought some places we opened 3.5 and shot right back down. So I think both teams suffered some offensive line injuries too. So that makes it even a bigger struggle to score points in this game. The total opened 43.5. It's down to 42.
All right, let's move on from there. Bengals on the road against the Titans, one of our Sunday games as we get to that. 1.5 with a total of 42.5. What do you make of this, and where has there been any action? Because I think this is really interesting. We talk about teams that aren't reflective from a rating to a record standpoint. I still think the Titans aren't very good, and yet they continue to deliver with Mike Vrabel. Statistically, across the board, Jay, they're a really below-average team, but they get it done almost every single week.
Well, they cover every week, it feels like. I think that they're the best covering team in the NFL, along with their opponent. I think the Bengals are the second best team against the spread, coming into week 12. So you're talking about the two best teams that have been very well cashing a lot of tickets. But I kind of agree with you with this Titans team. I mean, they at times they can run the ball, at times they can't. And if they can't, they have a very tough time passing the ball. Obviously, the Bengals are a little bit more well-rounded. They surprise me at times. Chase might be back for them. I think he's going to practice this week. But two teams that I would say are a little bit. I'm going to say maybe a little overrated, but they certainly have been cashing a lot of tickets.
Yeah, Chase set to come back to practice, as you said, this week. That's official. Now, whether that means he plays or not is something that has yet to be determined. And also, to your point, from a cover standpoint, the Tennessee Titans lead the league 80% against the spread so far, 8-2 overall ATS. So the best cover team. And yet, I still think a stink team. But we'll see if the market continues to get there, because you're still sitting at a playable number at like 1.5 for the Cincinnati Bengals, who might get Chase back. If Chase officially plays, what does this number get to?
I'm not going to raise it too much. I mean, I think talking over, they've been. I'm certainly a great player, but it's rare that a wide receiver would, adjust would make an impact on the line. I'm just looking at here right now, but I guess you could probably do it a half point, and maybe I know some would probably say a full point, but I think Burrow finds these guys no matter what. I think that Higgins had a pretty good game. Even Boyd was quiet last week, but they do have some capable receivers. But I would just make a slight adjustment on the spread if Chase ends up on the playing field. And, even if he comes back, we don't know if he's 100%.
All right, we'll move on from here. Before we get to our big tickets, we have one more game to get to. Sunday Night Football, Green Bay Packers on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles. What's going on with Philly, huh? Failing to cover numbers, losing games all of a sudden. I thought they were the perfect team, Jay.
There's some cracks there, right? There's some cracks, and something about momentum and mojo, and certainly the Eagles were flat after getting, beaten up by the Commanders. But I almost said it. But anyway, the Commanders look actually pretty good, and they certainly are, have a lot of momentum going right now, and they just have I think they're a tough out. I would not want to see Washington on my schedule, but the Eagles are going the opposite direction, JVT. I think that they, I wouldn't be surprised if they struggled again, even though they've been a lot better at home. They're 4-1 against the spread at home, and the Packers. Well, we all know what the Packers are doing this year, even though they've been a little better. I certainly wouldn't want to lay 7 with the Eagles the way that they've been playing the last couple of weeks.
Well, they failed to cover their last 3, but still the market. I mean, this is the full 7 right now, total of 46.5, and it's not like Green Bay's playing any better. But what's interesting here, Jay, is the matchup. The Eagles, I mean, they're signing defensive tackles off the street for a reason. They're actually grading out as one of the worst run defenses in the NFL, and the one thing the Packers can kind of do is run the ball.
Yeah, and Sue, it will make a difference there. And, after that, I can't remember how many yards Washington posted against them, but it was a big number. But it's not only their, run defense, it's also their offense. Their offense struggled the last 2 games, and they're going to have to figure it out because they can't run the ball consistently. And, they're going to have somebody outside of Brown catching some passes out there. And, they lost their tight end 2 weeks ago, and, that's not going to help them. So it's not just their run defense. They have other issues on that team right now.
Yeah, and a team that is, I always like to look at like market ratings, right, which is just how the market power rates some of these teams. It's a highly rated team, but a little too high, because despite being what are they, 9-1 right now? They're 5-5 against the spread. They have not been covering numbers of Philadelphia Eagles, so this is not a recent thing for them. All right, last little thing on the National Football League, because I just saw something get tweeted out here by the Superbook. Do we have a big ticket wager to discuss here that involves the Dallas Cowboys?
That we do, JVT. We had a player came in last night and he laid $200,000 on the 49ers money line, and he came in this morning and asked if he could just roll it over And we were like, of course, what team? He's like, Dallas on Thanksgiving Day. So yeah, he rolled it over 244K on the Cowboys money line, laid 410. All right, another big number. But it's a player that we've known for quite a long time. So he's a pretty loyal player, and we let our loyal players. We give him the benefit of the doubt on those limits, and so he just wanted to, I guess, have some action on the holiday, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, 244 essentially to win 59. That's some action. So we sweating that out. Although I'm supposed to root for the better, Jay, because I am one. When I see bets like that, sometimes I'm kind of just like, okay, all right. Maybe I don't hope you lose it, but I hope it's a sweat at the very least.
Well, I gotta be. I was looking at that game, and I was like, at the beginning of the week, and when I saw the numbers, and I looked at the box score of the Giants Lions game, and it's like, wow, the Giants really got beat up. And then I saw the injury report. I mean, they do have a lot of injuries. I mean, it does kind of make sense to I guess, play the Cowboys in this particular game. It's tough to lay 410 on an NFL game, but I can understand the thinking behind it.
All right, let's go to you for an update as well for the Super Contest, because over the course of, what are we at now, 45, 50 plays, whatever it is, hitting at 73%, because that's exactly what the leader's doing right now.
Yeah, Heineken 21, JVT, 4-0-1 last week. Two guys went 4-0-1, but Heineken 21 has a half-point lead over Jay Haas 07, I guess it is. Hitting at us anywhere around 70% is pretty impressive. I looked at the gold, and the gold actually, their leader, and this is a winner-take-all, $5,000 entry fee. Winner's getting about 400,000 right up there, and he's leading with 38 points. He's 37, 16, and 2. So, and a lot of guys are right behind them. So that's telling me that the top half of, let's just say the top half of this leaderboard is right there, very respectable, high 60 percentages, right around the 70% mark as well. Pretty impressive.
So when it comes to the Super Contest Gold, really quickly, I've noticed that the winning percentage usually isn't as high as the Super Contest. Is that just generally because the Super Contest field is so big, and it's going to be a little bit more likely that somebody just gets randomly insanely hot?
Yeah, that's it. But even though the way I look at it is, you have more contestants, right? A lot more contestants in the regular Super Contest versus the Gold. But the Gold is also known to have the top handicappers in it. And that's mainly because it's a $5,000 entry fee. It's a winner take all. Got to have some kahunas to do that. And the guys that really do this for a living are usually in that Gold contest.
All right, let's move on from there. We go to college football. Got a pretty big week, rivalry week, and we start in the Big Ten. I will ask you this, so Michigan on the road against Ohio State, Superbook line 7.5 with a total of 56.5. Where does the action come in here on this game? Because, again, looking at some of these numbers, I mean, you're over that key of 7 and sitting at 7.5. I would assume that there's not a rush of sharp support on Michigan, or am I wrong?
Not yet. I know that these are, obviously, this is something that we've been looking forward to for the entire season, really. And this is the game. This is the game that we all anticipated, and here we are. Both have probably had some look-ahead games last week. I think that they both have, great defenses. Michigan is their defense seems to be a little better statistically, but Ohio State's offense is probably a little better than Michigan. So it's a really even game. I'm surprised it's this high, even though I know the Buckeyes power rankings been up there, but I'm not sure if all the stats that I look at hold true to that. I haven't really seen much sharp action at all on this thing, but I'm looking at it and looking at ticket count right now. It's great two-way action. I'm a little disappointed that it's 9 a.m. our time. It's not even noon. I mean, what is this, the World Cup? It's like 9 a.m. It's way too early. I was hoping it would be at least a 12:30 start Pacific time, give everybody a little bit more time clear their heads on Saturday morning. But it's at least we have a marquee matchup. They're both undefeated. If it's a close game, I wouldn't rule out the loser out of the playoffs. I wouldn't do that. I mean, they still might have a chance there, but obviously the winner will have to play in the Big Ten championship, most likely against Iowa. And outside of a letdown, they should take care of business there.
Yeah, my conspiracy is that if it's going to go that way, I don't know why we don't talk enough about two Big Ten teams, Jay. I would think that it has to be Michigan who wins in a close game because Michigan's strength of schedule is not great. So if they lose, it might knock them out of contention. But I mean, Ohio State, a team that's been ranked pretty much 2 or 3 the entire season, loses a 1-score game to a Michigan squad who'd be, of course, a top 2 team at that point. Why not both Michigan and Ohio State in if that happens?
Well, I guess you're going to have to see what the rest of the contenders do. And there could be some impressive wins in some of these bigger games down the stretch that would propel them into, the top 4. So it's not just a matter of what these two teams, but it also depends on how these other contenders look.
Yeah, well, TCU continues to get that horseshoe out of their rear end and use it very well because that was incredible what they pulled off at the end of that Baylor game. But we're not going to talk about them this week. Let's go to the Pac-12. Oregon on the road against Oregon State. This one loses a little bit of luster. Oregon, of course, is still alive in the chase for the Pac-12 title, but in terms of college football playoff, not so much. This one's 3 with a total of 58. And here's the thing. You talk about good cover teams. That has been Oregon State this year, Jay. They've been quietly a solid team at the window for bettors.
That they have, and you hear that discussion amongst some of the top handicappers I've been talking to over the last few weeks. They at times have been mentioning Oregon State, and Oregon State for them have been again cashing tickets. So I'm trying to find this game, but it looks like right now there's still a lot of support for Oregon. I think it's hard or very difficult for the public right now to bet on Oregon State. I don't think they realize how good this team is. They certainly don't get the respect from the betting public, and that's why we're seeing majority of the tickets right now. Majority is about 67, 68% of the tickets right now are on the Ducks, and I think that's going to continue because it's just difficult for these guys out here to bet, on the Beavers. They just don't see them as one of those top contending teams.
For those who don't know, Oregon State has covered 5 straight. They're 9-2 ATS on the season. So a very good number, very good teams in terms of what they've done at the window. Last but not least, Notre Dame on the road against USC. Superbook line 5.5, total of 64. And I got to say that USC defense, 30th in the country EPA per play defensively. Tell me why this Notre Dame team can't run through them.
I've been trying to figure out this Notre Dame team all season long. At times I'm ready to jump on that wagon a bit, and then they have a really poor performance, even though they might have won the game. They've let some bettors down by not covering consistently. I don't know that some of those numbers that are up against USC, I think they're skewed a bit. It's just the wide open brand that they play. It reminds me of those Big 12 games, just crazy. What was it, 90 points again? Weren't we talking about that total last week as being 77.5 or whatever it was?
Yeah.
Still flew over. I certainly wouldn't bet
some spots, remembered, it opened at 82.5, remember?
Yeah. So now I'm going to get a ticket count here too, but it's another one of those where I think that USC is just, they're going to be at home. It's going to be a majority of Trojan support, and it is right now, as 80% of the tickets right now are in USC. There's no doubt in my mind that we're going to need the Irish in this game.
And kind of a dead number too, right? I would assume that attracts a lot of public bettors. You can go in there, 5.5? That doesn't mean anything. I'll go ahead and lay that.
That's exactly what they say at the betting window, JVT. You see, you're a bettor. You know that.
No, what they say at the window is, can I get the Irish? Yeah, can I get the Irish? I'm like, well, what do you want? You want money line? What do you want? That's what they say at the window. I love it. I love you got to get the app, folks. Can I just say really quickly, it's a natural jumping off point. If you're in a jurisdiction, of course, where Superbook is offered, download the Superbook app. and sign up and immediately deposit in certain states, it is a fantastic tool to have. Screw the window. Just go sign up on the app, and you can bet away on your phone, get all those bonuses that are offered. Absolutely tremendous. You can download it in all the jurisdictions which offer the Superbook. All right, let's move on from football to football. World Cup. First off, what has the handle been like early? We're only a couple of days in. Has it been popular so far?
It has. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like to believe into that popularity. It's a love-hate relationship with soccer out here. Americans, either you love it or hate it. Those that love it are betting it, and the popularity of it is just going to gain momentum as we move on to the knockout round and the quarterfinals and championship game, as usually the cream of the crop rises to the top there. And some of these popular teams, I hate to say it, I was going to say Argentina, but we all know that they lost, but they still can make it. They can still advance. But Brazil, Germany, or France, of course, US and Mexico, those are the popular teams. I'm going to tell you, if US advances, they got their work cut out. I get it. Same with Mexico. But those two teams really garner a lot of support out here. And but so far, it's off to a pretty solid start, even though my friends just take pops at it all the time. It's like, Jay, another nail biter.
That was
they don't understand.
That was Mexico-Poland today. It was a good game. It was a really good game.
2 games that were 0-0 today. Yeah.
So really quick, a couple of notes on this. First off, you mentioned Argentina losing to Saudi Arabia. Murray mentioned the last time we got to talk on this podcast that you guys had some liability. So was that a kind of a good thing for you? Obviously, they're not knocked out yet, but the chances of them moving on to the group stage, I mean, it is hurt a little bit for them.
Yeah, Argentina is one of those teams that we have some liability attached to them. It's not too bad, but Brazil, we had a deep hole on Brazil, but we kind of worked our way out of that in the last few weeks. And Argentina was right behind them. And then you got the usual suspects like U.S. and Mexico. But out of the true contenders, our 2 biggest liabilities were Brazil and Argentina. So it didn't really bother me. I'm not really rooting against Argentina at this point. I know we got a long way to go, but I wasn't. It wasn't breaking my heart to see them lose. I thought it was pretty exciting. I'm a little disappointed that a lot of us didn't get to see it. It was so early in the morning that, we woke up to it, but it would have been exciting to see that in prime time and just seeing what the book was like, because we are getting fans that are coming in, and we expect a full house this Friday when U.S. plays England.
And last note on the World Cup, the 3rd Revolutionary War, as I have called it, USA-England, coming up a little bit later this week. That's going to be Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern. How popular is that just single game going to be?
I expect it to be very popular. It's happening on a somewhat of a holiday. A lot of us, a lot of regular people take Friday off. And so I think that, it's at 11 a.m. and that's about the best we can do, for this World Cup as far as starting time. But we expect a full house, and we will be serving beer, by the way. So, there's no restrictions on that out here. I'm actually very excited for it. I'm trying to find a place. You got a place for me?
I got nothing. I don't really know yet, but I haven't come back in town yet. When I come back in town, I'll find a spot. We'll go hang out.
Oh, good. Count on
All right. Well, that does it for the Oddsmakers. I want to say thank you to everybody else. Happy Thanksgiving weekend. Jay, it was good to talk to you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate it. And again, if you like what you hear, like, rate, review, subscribe to the Oddsmakers podcast, and make sure you come see us at the Superbook of the Westgate, Las Vegas, or at the Lodge Casino in Black Hawk, Colorado.